And if you have problems, let me know, because I changed the batteries and also I can.
Live.
If there's any problems.
Okay.
Yes. Timer control, not accept. Okay.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. This regular meeting of the Township Council is being held in accordance with the scheduled meeting of the Township Council, established and adopted by the Township Council, which designates the time, date, and place of this meeting. Adequate public notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. We're using electronic amplifying recording device in order to obtain a clear and audible record. And we request all those wishing to speak be recognized and state your name and address directly to the microphone. The recording device will be still utilized by the Township Clerk's Office for the preparation of minutes and shall be the official record of the Township Council meeting. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hutchinson.
He is running late.
Ms. Grace. Mr. Mignon.
Here.
Mrs. Stubbs. Present. Mrs. Winter. Here. Mrs. Prado. Here. Mr. Mercado.
Present.
Mr. Barlow.
Here.
Mr. Curtis.
Here.
Mr. Lechner.
Here.
Mr. Parkins.
Here.
Mr. Travell.
Here.
We now open up the first public portion. This is for agenda items only. Anyone who would like to address council may speak. There's a 15-minute time period for the entire public portion. And each speaker is entitled to 3 minutes apiece, when the maximum time the speaker can speak is twice. Does anyone like to speak on agenda items only?
Good evening, Council. Ray Polidor from the Historic Village of Ariel.
Good evening.
My question to you, Council President, is any EGOV questions that may apply to the first public portion? A lot of times they go by the wayside until the second public portion. If you would consider reading them for the first public portion. And that is my only question.
I have EGOV questions, but none of them pertain to any of the agenda items in the first public portion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the first public portion. Waive the reading and accept the minutes of special meeting January 4th, 2021, executive session December 7th, 2020, executive session January 11th, 2021, and regular sessions December 14th, 2020, December 28th, 2020, January 11th, 2021, and January 25th, 2021. Entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Ms. Grace.
Yes.
Mr. Mignon.
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs.
Yes, with the exception of December 7th.
Mrs. Winters. Yes. Mrs. Prado. Yes. Mr. Mercado.
Staying on December, yes to all, staying on December 14th.
Report replacement of bicycle path pedestrian bridge.
Entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second, on the question, roll call, please.
Ms. Grace.
Yes.
Mr. Mignon.
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs. Yes. Mrs. Winter.
Yes.
Mrs. Prado. Yes. Mr. Mercado.
Yes. Next is the ordinance. There was a second reading. There will be a public hearing. Ordinance 0-21-03, calendar year 2021 ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank. This allows the municipality to increase our cap over the previous fiscal year. Mr. Carson, anything you'd like to add to that? It's a 2.5% increase on appropriations, correct?
It actually, the state set the cap at 1%. How they came up with that, I have no idea. This allows us to go to 3.5%.
So 2.5 on top of the 1. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Now open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this ordinance, please raise your hand. Yes, sir.
Joe Allen, 13 Bellissimo Court, Sicklerville.
Good evening.
Evening. Saw that this was posted on the Sicklerville Sun, and saw that it got a few people fired up, thinking that there was going to be an increase. But that is not the case from what that's just.
That's correct.
I think I'm guessing that it had been. Some of the people I've talked to, it's I guess discussed in the past on what exactly it is, but I'm probably not here at the time. What exactly is that? Is that anticipation of an increase?
It deals directly with the appropriation side of it. And so it allows us to appropriate beyond the 1% they typically would set. The other thing is it would, like, for example, you see what's happening with fuel prices. So where we were a year ago to now, there's no way that that's within 1%. So that allows us to do that, but it also allows us to bank cap. So if we're not at 3.5% on certain appropriations, that creates a bank that we can use in upcoming years to be able to, if we have expenses that go beyond the 3.5% that we can cover those.
But it's a per year thing, so you have to do it
Have to
again.
do it every
You have to
year.
do it every year.
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Mr. Polidoro?
Good evening, Council. Ray Polidoro from Ariel. The verbiage is to exceed the municipal budget appropriations limits. What is the limit?
1%.
1%. Has there ever been a year that we have been within that limit in the last 10 years?
I couldn't say, there's no formula for that, no calculation for that. I would say to you, just from a common sense standpoint, no, I don't think there's any.
Okay. And and I understand that there's banking the cap or banking a cap that you're not going to use at a particular time. The difference between, as you clearly pointed out, the appropriations and the levy. Okay. Now, when you bank it in appropriations, that helps you that for unexpected or unforeseen items later on that we can put into that.
For example, the snow that we recently encountered has been quite expensive. Right now we're tallying the numbers, but the storm on the 1st and 2nd of February, we had to bring outside contractors, and that was very expensive. We've been going through a lot of salt, and so things like that.
And we've gone back and forth on the snowfalls before because there were many times that we got unexpected snowfalls, and you have put into the budget for them. I've always made the comparison of you're ready for 10 snowstorms with the amount of times that you have added snowstorms to the budget. When we don't use those types of, like years that we don't have snow removal, and that money's not used, we'll get maybe 1, 2 that we're going to use that. But when that unused money for snow removal is not used, that goes into what would be deemed a different account, or does it go into general account, or does it go into the, what's the word I'm looking for?
It can be used for transfers for other line items that perhaps went over. It would then go into the reserves, and that has to run a full year under the reserves. It could be, hypothetically, could be canceled, but we don't typically do that before year end. Typically, a budget has to run an additional 12-month cycle, which is called the reserves.
Now, in the event, let's say we don't use it in a certain year, is there a means that you can put it into a holding account? Because something that is foreseeable is you're going to have winter the next year, you're going to have snowstorms the next year. That balance can't be brought forward or appropriated in the next year for snow removal?
No, you cannot reserve it for the following year. The following year has to be appropriated separately. The reason the money stays in there for an additional year is for the bills that come in from, let's say, for example, 2020 come in 2021, and we pay them in 2021. Most of those expenses will be completed by March. It's mainly for your utility bills and things like that come in after the fact.
Okay. And the reason I ask is if the years that we have excessive snow, it gets put into the budget, it never truly comes back out. It's always in that budget. The following year, the budget's here. The next year, we don't get snow. It stays there for snow removal. The following year, we have those snowstorms already built into the budget, and we're adding more snowstorms. That's
You can't use that money for the following year. No.
it's kind of a shame you can't do it. I mean, household budgets do that, and the government can't do that. It just seems that you use it or lose it, but the money's always in there.
It's statutory.
Okay.
All right, answer my question. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on this ordinance. Entertain the motion.
I'll make that motion. Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Ms. Grace? Yes. Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mrs. Steph?
Yes.
Mrs. Winter? Yes. Mrs. Strato? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next, we have our items on the consent agenda. Any council member that would like to remove any of the items, please speak up. Hearing none, I entertain the motion to accept the consent.
Neal?
Yes.
Mrs. Steph?
Yes.
Mrs. Winter? Yes. Mrs. Strato? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Now we have e-gov questions. I'll read these questions and answers. The first is from Tate Pezzarelli from 505 Harrison Avenue, Collingswood, New Jersey. Hi, there are 2 retention ponds behind the Jehovah Witness on Summerdale Road. The one closest to the Jehovah's building is filled with milkweed. Milkweed is the host plant for the monarch butterfly. Without milkweed, the larva will not be able to develop into a butterfly. Monarchs use a variety of milkweeds. Monarch larvae, bear with me for a second, or caterpillars feed exclusively on milkweed leaves. I've been contacting Public Works to see if mowing could be held off until they migrate in November. On December 15, 2020, after a thorough assessment of the monarch's butterfly status, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has found that adding the monarch butterfly to the list of threatened and endangered species is warranted. I would love to see Gloucester Township take a proactive stance on protecting this sensitive feeding and nesting ground. Warm regards, Tate Pezzarelli. I grew up in Gloucester Township. My dad, daughter, grandchildren, and other blood relatives live throughout Gloucester Township. This is a private basin. It is not owned by the township. And we'll make sure that Ms. Pezzarelli is informed of that. All right, our next question, bear with me. Is from Denise Coyne. Bear with me, there's about 6 questions here. Okay, from Denise Coyne, 1062 Landing Road, Laurel Springs, New Jersey. It was stated at the last Gloucester Township Housing Authority meeting that the market to affordable program is no longer a requirement under the township's fair share housing obligations. Is this true? If so, as of when? With current zoning, township zoning, the market to affordable program is no longer being used by the township to satisfy unmet housing needs. The program, the market to affordable program, is still going to be utilized to provide affordable housing opportunities within the township. 2, if we no longer have a MTA agreement and the program is not cost effective per Mr. Carlemere, why did Gloucester Township recently enter into an agreement which names Triad Associates as the consultant for the market to affordable programs? As with question 1, the current township zoning, the market to affordable program is no longer being used by the township to meet the unmet affordable housing needs. This program is still utilized to provide housing opportunities, and Triad remains the consultant for the township in regards to affordable housing. 3, how much is the township paying to consult with Triad regarding the MTA program? Will the fees be paid from the Affordable Housing Trust? If not, why? It's an hourly fee, and that their fees are paid from the Affordable Housing Trust. I don't have their hourly fee in front of me. I can provide that to Ms. Corn. Was a cost-benefit analysis done for the township's current market to affordable program? No, and it is not required. 5, what was the balance of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund as of January 1st, 2021? It is $1,122,795.06. 6, Mr. Carlemere is cited in the patch as stating the township wanted to put their experts at the Housing Authority in charge of marketing and help developing the project, referring to Lakeland's housing project announced in January. What experts was he referring to? I'll let Mr. Carlemere answer that.
Well, Well, first, let me go back to the question number 2, where they indicated that the market affordable requirement and the program is not cost-effective per Mr. Farley. I would not have said that it's not cost-effective.
Okay.
My comment basically was that it's an expensive process to do market to affordable just because of the cost of properties to acquire and purchase out there. I would not have said the program is not cost-effective. Regarding the
Thanks for that
comment,
clarification.
the comment, the number 6, where it indicated that it's cited in patch that I said township wanted to put their experts at the housing authority in charge. I would not have used the word experts. I believe what I indicated was that they wanted to put it a better process of putting the market to affordable program at the housing authority, because that's just what they do. It's not like they have experts there that are going to manage that program, because it still takes a lot of time to research, find out houses that are available that could be utilized for market to affordable program, as it indicated earlier as a response. But it's not because they have experts at the housing authority to basically handle the program that's managed there.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Nancy, there was 3 or 4. Did I?
There was 2.
All right. So I mixed them all up. Okay. And the last one is from Mr. Sam Sweet, 18 Elizabeth Place, Erie, New Jersey. What are the expenses, utilities, taxes, maintenance that Gloucester Township is picking up for AMR made approximately 2 years ago? Mr. Carter stated he would let me know what the expenses are in the past meeting. Mr. Sweet, if you do not come up, I can give it to you after the meeting. They're here. With that, we'll open up our public portion. Anyone wishing to speak, please raise your hand. This public portion is for any item that the public wishes to discuss. There's a 30-minute time limit, and each resident is entitled to 5 minutes. They can speak up to a maximum of 2 times. Would anyone like to speak on the second public portion? Mr. Karu.
Evening, Council. Paul Krug, Blackwood.
Good evening,
Yeah.
Paul. How are you today?
I dropped off some documentation this evening with each of you on the topic I'm talking about for 4 to 5 meetings now with regard to the 20-year history of municipal property taxes levied by this administration and body. And what you have in front of you is 1998 through 2018, the aggregate municipal property taxes for each of those years listed out, starting in 1998 at $10,800,000 approximately. In 2018, that number had jumped to $48,700,000, an increase multiple of 4.5, or stated differently, a percentage increase of 350%. Below that, I've compared to other townships those increases. That's 4.5x for us to what Ms. Stubbs had suggested as a comparable township, which is Cherry Hill. They went from 12 million in 98 to 45 million in 2018, a 3.6x or 260% increase. Washington Township, which I've urged is a better comparison due to a number of variables, including equalized tax base, went from 9.4 million in 98 to 29.9 in 2018, a 3.2x or 216% increase. So we have Cherry Hill beat by nearly 100% and Washington Township beat by nearly 135%. Both of those, I think, barring the equalized tax base being nearly 2 times ours of Cherry Hill, other variables can be considered comparable, so I'll accept them as comparable. The trend here is one only matched by the pharmaceutical industry and higher education. It's a trend that I feel is unsustainable for this body to continue to accept. So, Mr. Mignon, is this a priority for you? Is this something that you recognize as being true, these numbers, which were taken from the Department of Community Affairs for the last 20 years? And if it is a priority, how do you plan on addressing it this year?
I'll take time to dot my answer. Mr. Crew, normally you should ask the chair, that the chair would ask Mr. McGill to like respond to that. Go ahead, Mr. McGill.
So just being given this information, Mr. Krug, it would take me some time to digest this. And yeah, I mean, as I said before, nobody likes taxes, and taxes are a priority. Unfortunately, to make money, you got to spend money. As we said earlier in other meetings and in the past, there's a lot that Gloucester Township has to offer. You know, a lot of services. And unfortunately with that comes higher taxes, monies. I'm very happy with the services that are provided here. So yeah, it is a priority. It is a trend that's not a good trend to have. But yeah, it's something that we definitely would, take a closer look at to prevent this trend from going in this direction.
So spend money to make money, you hear that in business. We're not a business. We're not making money unless you're considering levying taxes against the citizens is making money. Why are other townships able to offer the same services?
Numbers are going to tell you anything that you want them to tell you. I can look at these numbers right now, and I can ask you a couple of questions, and you're not going to be able to answer them just as well. Michael's not going to be able to. For instance, let's look at the 10 million back in 98 for Gloucester Township. What was the percentage of that 10 million for the police department? And how does that compare to the percentage the police department in Cherry Hill in Washington Township? This town has developed significantly over this period of time on your chart. And I think that you can't just look at raw data, because the 4.5 times that you referenced, 4.5x, doesn't take into account the town, who the town was in 98 versus who it is now as it relates to Cherry Hill in Washington Township. You understand what I'm saying?
Dan, respectfully, I've been bringing this up for 2.5 months. Whatever variables you'd like to present to me, I'll take them into consideration and I'll run the analysis. But I'm the only one putting forth the data, the facts. This goes to the state. It's a 350% increase, bottom line.
But that doesn't, I'm telling you, Paul, this doesn't tell a story that's accurate. Do you agree with me?
It tells a completely true narrative, 100%.
If you look at Cherry Hill, okay? And I'm not saying these are not good comparison towns. I'm not making that statement. I'm just saying that when you look at Cherry Hill, it's an older, more developed town back in 98. Okay? If you look at their 12 million and then say, well, it went up to 45 million, well, that's 3.6, okay? Well, we weren't developed. We didn't have that much back then. We're now as big as Cherry Hill. We've got as many people as Cherry Hill. We've got a lot more people than Washington Township. So our services that we're providing to these people have to exceed Washington Township, and in some cases exceed Cherry Hill. So we've got to provide a level of service commensurate with the population of the town and the demographics of the town. We're doing that, okay? I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we should shave 30% of the public works department or 20% of the clerk's office. I can't say
Well,
that.
what are you willing to do? Because the trend is unsustainable. There's enough people here that realize that and are not going to stay here because of it.
That's not
So
true.
what can be
Paul, that
done?
is-
How can the
That
trend
is not
over
true,
the
Paul.
next
Paul,
20 years,
That statement
how can the
is
next
gentlemen,
20 years, the
gentlemen,
trend change?
Paul,
Gentlemen.
that's not true.
Gentlemen, that's a longer conversation. I'm sorry, Mr. Creed, your time is up. You may come up again if we have more time available in the public portion. Thank you. Is there anyone else? Mr. Sweet? Again, that I ask all speakers be cognizant of other individuals that may want to speak during the meeting. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Sam Sweet from Ariel, New Jersey. Chief, I believe it's your birthday, so
is.
happy birthday.
Thank you.
Big one, right?
Yep.
All right, so happy birthday. I read that someplace, so. I have a question on this CV3, CV1. It appears that I was on a Zoom call, and does that come in front of council first, the breakdown? How we're breaking down the money that we're receiving from HUD? Or is that done by the administration?
That was done by the administration.
Does council have any say in it? Does it come across council's desk? Because I didn't recall seeing it on the agenda at any point.
We accept the funds.
You do.
We accept the funds, but no, that's the administration.
So council has no say into where the funds go and how they're broken out?
That's an administrative function.
Okay, but, so the answer is no, council has no say.
So if I indicated, if I had I could have a conversation with the mayor or Mr. Cardis, any member of council could say, perhaps we should go in this direction or do that. But no, it's a function of the administration.
Okay, because it appears that over 26% of those funds are going for small cares implementation. And I was part of that Zoom call, and it was very interesting.
I'm sorry, small what?
The Small Business Cares Act implementation.
Oh, okay.
All right, so 113,000 is going for.
Yes, that was brought up at the last meeting, yes.
All right, and according to Triad Associates, who's doing the implementation, they said they're expecting about 130 applications. So if you break that down, 130 applications.
No, Tom, let him finish, please.
Well, he wants to know.
No, let him finish, get your thought off. No, let him finish, please.
I'm just going by what's being told. So if you break that down, 130 applications, that's about $869 an application. And by looking at the pre-app, which to me makes no sense because that's what the purpose of an application is in the first place, to determine if you're eligible or not. But in my professional judgment, and I've done these applications for the PPPs, the second round of PPPs, SBA EIDL loans, I've even done Camden County CARES Act applications. In my professional opinion, it's going to take 2 to 3 hours to do this application, not an average of 10 hours.
So can I ask you a question? What do you bill per hour
Myself,
in your profession?
what?
In your
175.
profession? Excuse me?
175.
175. Okay, 350, five and a quarter? Five and a quarter for,
If you do 2 to 3
5 and a
hours,
quarter for 3 hours.
50 though if you're doing 2 hours.
You said 2 or 3 hours.
I said 2 to 3 hours, you're hearing 3, I'm going 2. 2 to 3
So
hours.
if, let's say you had individuals coming back and had some issues with their application, you're still bill, it's 175 an hour.
Essentially, if you want to break it down like that, yes.
Okay. So,
Okay,
so
but
if Triad, you brought it up, I'm just asking questions. So if Triad, someone came to Triad, they fill out an application, they have some issues with it, they keep coming back, it's unlimited, Mr. Cardis, they can go back and keep contacting Triad Associates with their application. There's no cap on it. They're not gonna keep getting billed, because they're not getting billed, it's through the.
Triad will help them.
Exactly. Help them qualify for it. When you said that they anticipated 131 applications, there could be more, correct?
that's what they're anticipating, that's coming from them. But yes, it could be.
There could be more. Right.
I think that 26% of the actual funds to go to something that an admin person could do as well is a lot. And I'm wondering if council actually looked into that price.
I don't know if you know the answer to this. What is
what does TD Bank, what are their fees associated with the rollout of PPP?
Zero.
They don't get paid anything for
They
the
get paid by the SBA,
I'm
5%.
Look, can you let him finish? Mr. Cardis, let Mr. Hutchinson finish, please.
No, I was just curious.
According to the SBA regulations, depending on the size of the PPP, it's anywhere from 3 to 5% of the loan that TD Bank is getting paid. But that's coming from the SBA. It's not coming out of the pockets of our taxpayers. These $100,000 could be rerouted for rental assistance for individuals that need rental assistance.
So how much money, do
50,000.
you think, how much, Sam, you think they should get 50,000 to do this?
What's that?
How much should the entity approving these monies get? How much should Triad be paid?
I think we need to, should council be asking that question, not
I'm
me?
asking you.
Well, I'm asking council, did you even think about it?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I'm comfortable with that figure.
You're comfortable with 26% of
I'm
our,
comfortable that for the $113,000, whatever the dollar amount is, that's right. Mr. Cardis, please, that they're providing technical assistance. We're asking questions here, we're having a conversation. No reason for anyone to get riled up, hands in the air.
Facts.
Okay,
Facts.
Okay,
Mr. Cardis.
Facts.
what's up?
You're an accountant, or you at least work in an accounting organization. 493,000 plus 180,000, and then taking the fractional 113,000 out for admin is 17%, not 26.
180? What's the 180?
180 is additional funds. That's it. We've got 493 plus 180. You knew that because you come in here and asked us about it. You're on tape saying 493 plus 180. Where are you getting your numbers from?
493.
You got to include
Okay.
both numbers. And I assure you, it's not 26%, and it's under the 20% that's allowable.
According to Triad's numbers, Triad is getting on CV3, 300,000, no,
Total is 113. I looked at the numbers. I ran the calculation. If you ran them, you would have came up with 17%, not 26.
Mr. Hutchinson earlier said that we can make numbers do whatever we want them to do to Mr. Krug, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so out of the CV3, 300,000 is going towards small business assistance, 300 plus thousand. According to the Zoom call, another 113,000 is being applied, so over 400,000 are just CVE. I'm not talking about the entire 493, because some of that's going to,
Why would you talk about
because the 493, some of it's going to Unforgotten Haven, some of it's going to PPP or PPE, and
It's a percentage
Okay.
of the total
out of the
allocation.
400,000 that is going towards small business,
Well, you're
Okay.
you run your numbers.
Actually,
I'll tell you what.
I think I understand what you're saying, Sam.
I do.
What you're saying is that if only if a portion of the entire amount is going to be allocated for small business, that's what you're basing your fraction on.
yes.
I understand.
I think Triad is overcharging. And I wonder why council has not questioned that. Or looked at trying to help the rental assistance for the people in this town that are hurting. That, according to HUD, and this, I know you don't have to, but according to HUD, that money was for rental assistance. There's countless amount of articles, there's press releases on it. That money was supposed to be geared towards rental assistance. Now, Camden County also received money. So it's what bucket do you want to use? So I get the council.
Exactly. What bucket do we want to use? Because if we didn't provide it to businesses, then people say, well, what are we going to do for downtown Blackwood? What are we going to do for Blackwood Clementon Road? What are we going to do for these small businesses?
Yeah, but the small
Okay,
businesses,
So if you recall, when you asked about the county, we talked about the rental assistance program from the county. I talked about it at our meeting here. I directed people to their website. I talked about that there was still money available for it. This is money available for small businesses. That was the decisions made by the administration. I am comfortable with it, and I'm comfortable with the amount that Triad is providing for consulting.
But-
Sam, we've reached our time here. There's some other individuals that would like to speak. If we have time, you can come back again. Thank you. Mr. Hutchinson provided you the information for the aerial spot. Miss, you had your hand up? Come on down.
Good evening.
My name is Shaughnessy Smithman. I live in Millbridge Gardens
Nice to
Apartments.
see you again. How are you?
Hello, how are you? I was listening to the gentleman speak about increases in what we spend, and I heard the word growth and the community growing. I was three weeks old when I came actually to this county on Oak Avenue. My grandmother, Harriet Fairbanks Smithman, owned a home where my father lived, and we came here and we lived in one of her rental apartments next to her home on Oak Ave. I have been on 100 University Court Ave in Sicklerville. I walked there to verify my address for voting and my signature, because the signature had changed without me changing it when I went to one of the locations to vote at the community center. When I went there, I asked them how I'm supposed to write my address, because living in Millbridge Gardens Apartments, the leasing office address is 1341 Blackwood Clementon Road. It should be followed by your apartment number. I was having mail returned from my doctor's offices. I was very ill. I was dealing with a newly diagnosed, they called it mental illness, which has now deemed me disabled, where I can no longer work in my the profession that chose me as a union electrician, which I worked in the field for at least 15 years, where the last couple of times I went in, they pretty much told me to go. I'm now considered permanently disabled by the state. My mail was being returned. They were saying that the building that I live in Millbridge Gardens Apartments, the address, that it's abandoned. They told me the way to write the address is to put my apartment number followed by Millbridge Road for the entire apartment complex. Even though I live on Millbrook, they said Millbridge Road for the entire apartment complex of the 800 units of Millbridge Gardens. My sister sent a letter, it got returned back to her. The address doesn't exist. I spoke to Corporal Jennifer McLaughlin. She told me that the way to write the address is my apartment number followed by Millbridge Road. She wasn't going to argue with me. When I spoke to the leasing office once again about it, they said that 20 years ago is when they stopped writing the address, 1341 Blackwood Clementon Road, followed by your apartment number, and that as of 5 years ago was when it stopped receiving mail. I moved in 5 years ago. I received some letters for 1341 Blackwood Clementon Road, followed by my apartment number. This is a letter I found amongst my dad's things.
Have you talked to the post office about this issue? Sorry, have you?
There are two post offices. There's one located in Laurel Hill where I'm reminded of Merry Christmas, and there's one located in Clementon. The one in Clementon is very difficult for me to get to. It was even more difficult when my health was in even poorer condition, which is when it was most important that I could receive mail. I would need to take the 459 bus to the Lindenwald station, and from there take the 103 post office, where I could walk to the one that was located right at Commerce Center in the Commerce One Plaza, but then it shut down. Then it moved. The zip code is the same for both post office, Clementon and Laurel Hill. Which one is the correct one to use? I do not know.
Yes, I believe the one that services.
That's not really why I'm speaking. My
I'm
father,
sorry, I was responding to your comment.
my father was born July 4th, 1948, and they found his body March, I think, 27th, 2006, in Williamstown. He wrote a letter. After 10 years, he was honorably discharged from the Navy, and he received disability benefits. He wrote it to, I found this amongst his things. There's to Regional Department of Veterans Affairs in Newark, New Jersey. The subject was letter stating percentage of disabilities for my father, Harry Smithman. Says, sir, this is my third contact with Newark VA Affairs. The first was a call placed on Monday, October 18th or Tuesday, October 19th. I furnished a change of address to the counselor. I didn't move, it just changed from a road to a street address. It was originally RD1, box 190K. They then changed it to 1801 Highland Avenue. Apparently then, we're at 1801 Highland Road. and then they changed it to Highland Ave. I can't remember which one. They changed it. He wasn't receiving his disability benefits, and he was trying to explain that he didn't move. They just changed the way they write the address, which is kind of similar to what I'm going through. Like I said, they found his body on the 27th. Said I was concerned about how long it would take for this letter to reach me. He assured me 4 days. It says here that no letter came. November 13th, he called again, and he reached another counselor, addressed his problem to her. She told him the computers are down. He said, and he left all the information and hung up, assured that it would be handled. It says here that you can come to Newark and pick it up. So he would have to go there to pick this up for his change of address. I don't know if he ever had this resolved. Where are you going? What that gentleman was saying, where are you going? We're having the same issue. I'm 43 years old. I thought I knew how to write my address. And my father grew up here. He was born here in the city of Camden. He went to Triton, this is before Highland was put in. And he died. They found his body. They don't know when he actually died. His neighbor Greg, he used to live in the Marquez house. Said he called the local police. They're much better with wellness checks now. They didn't have them then. But he said that, look, this man leaves the house every day. He hasn't left. It took him a couple weeks before they went and broke the door down. He couldn't write his address. He knew how to write his address.
Miss,
Where are you going?
excuse me, I'm a little unclear about what you're asking council for.
Well, he was talking about an increase in money, and I'm trying to say, okay, well, that's great, because I made a lot of money as a union electrician. I paid a lot of taxes. Now I can't even get to a tax office. H&R Block, I couldn't do them for 6 years because just getting to work and getting back.
So your issue is with the post office, when Mr. Hutchinson and I tried to intervene, but.
I'm just trying to say where you go.
No,
Like you're
what I'm-
spending an increase in
excuse
money,
me,
but
Miss, I'm trying to answer your question. Your issue is with the post office. The post office that you talked about at Commerce Square moved next to Catardo's, which is located in the Starbucks Plaza there. This is a federal post office issue. We could reach out to them on your behalf. Is the question regarding your issue with your address and how it's filled
I
out?
would like that to be clear because I was told by the state when I went to 100 University Court, when I walked there, they told me that the state wants it to be written 1341 Block of Clementon Road, followed by our apartment number. They said, but Google writes it, you put your apartment number first, followed by Millbridge Road for the entire apartment complex.
If you could leave your phone number with the clerk here, I will contact you this week.
Are you sure? Because I spoke with Corporal Jim McLaughlin, she told me not to argue with her.
Well, I'm not Corporal McLaughlin. So if you could leave your phone number here, and I will contact you this week after my conversations with the post office and also your complex. I'm aware of the individuals there at the Millbridge complex. So thank you very much. Yes. Mr. Polidoro, you're our last speaker of the evening. No.
Sorry, Paul.
Any council, Ray Polidoro from the Historic Village of Vero. First request is, would council consider extending the public portion just a bit for important items that may need to be discussed that you would be interested in?
Mr. Polidoro, no.
Very well.
Again, I ask people to be cognizant of the time.
No, I got you.
Good evening, Mr. Polidoro.
In any event, I missed some meetings, was down for a little bit, but I've been asking continuously, and I'm hoping that this is the week that I get the answer. As the township begins the process of looking for a solar project on Gems landfill, I have been looking for the answer to whatever happened to the concern for Swamp Pink. This was a request that you guys are going to look into with the DEP because it has not been discussed nor mentioned with the new project. And just because it was not discussed does not mean that it's still not a concern. We know that it was a big concern and stopped the project back in the day. And I'm interested in what the township has done to pursue finding out the livelihood of the swamp pink and the concerns for the preservation of swamp pink and what this project has done to look into it. If they're ignoring it and it's just not coming up, that's not acceptable.
I don't believe they're ignoring it and I'll ask Mr. Carmen to chime in, and Mr. Carson, also Mr. Lechner. From what I've gathered is that the two can coexist there, but there's not an issue with Swamp Pit for this particular project. If I am incorrect, please chime in. Mr. Lechner?
I'm not familiar with the permitting, but I would say that this has to go through the land use regulation program of the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, and they're gonna review that.
I made that request though, and I would have thought that the township would have done that already.
It wouldn't be the township, it would be the applicant.
Mr. Bonner, the township is leasing the landfill to Sincarfa Private Corporation. Sincarfa is making the Aggregate, going through the process through the Friend Board of Whatever Development. They've gone through the state of New Jersey. They were held up. I know this just because of delaying the lease. They were held up for a long period of time because of the swamping. Then, in order for them to move forward, start to put the solar panels and begin the project, they had to get clearance from DEP, state of New Jersey. Federal government was involved. Whatever permits they had to receive before they can go forward. A lot of that dealt with swamping. They cleared the issue. It was not the township's project, their project.
Okay.
Once they got clearance, they started to move forward.
Okay, I'm gonna move forward, a little lightning of quick question. The grant that is gonna be going out to small business, if that is not used up by the small businesses, or for some reason there is a surplus of funds, what will happen to that?
You know what? Mr. Carson, anything?
I don't have an answer to that.
I would suggest that if that's not all used up, that we continue to promote that particular program, make that available in some form to our business.
And then, you know what, I mean, I don't think we have an answer to that yet.
Or the consideration
But
of
the second round.
rent, those that need it in the private sector for rental purposes, help the people as well as the business. Okay, thank you. On Mr. Krug's questions regarding the state of the township and the direction that we're heading in, Mr. Hutchinson's response was that the town is growing and we're growing and we're growing, becoming bigger, and the demands for services with that. And it goes back to a question that I've asked Mr. Lechner some time ago on a few different occasions. We're taxed for open space. My question, Mr. Lechner, back then was, would you say there is more open space now for the money that we've been taxed on, or less? As we begin to build and build and build, it does not appear, from a layperson's point of view, that open space has been expanded or even remain the same. With all the building that we're doing, with what was open space, it seems that we have less. So maybe if that is not the case, we do an actual survey of the township, see if there is open space. If not, what are we being taxed for? If you're going to keep on taking money from us for open space and we're not preserving open space, it's defeating the purpose of unnecessary tax. I'll move on to the next one because the clock is running. Some of the other things that we look at that drive our taxes up sometimes may not be the greatest bookkeeping and accounting that we can. I'm not picking on any one person because there's a lot of projects come down the pike. Some are necessary, some are luxury items. We talked about luxury items before. Just because Morristown has it and Voorhees has it, doesn't mean that we have to have it, because there's older folks that have paid for their mortgages and paid their mortgage off years ago. And they're paying more in taxes than they did when they had a mortgage. Now, that's not to say, there's young people moving in. Granted, that there's still a demand for people to move into New Jersey. Why people will move into Camden County, people will move into Gloucester Township. Their expense is high. The taxes are high. Goes without saying. But if they can afford it, they're buying our homes. That's a win-win for the township, win for the people, because there's somebody that's there to offset those taxes, that we're not sitting looking at vacant homes, looking at the banks to be paying these taxes. But that being said, it's still, you have lifelong residents of this town that are not living very comfortable anymore because of the taxes that keep on rising. And again, I hate to keep beating the same drum, but we can only expect there'll be at least a 10% tax increase in 2022. We do it in 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, who knows, 24, 26. There's a difference between a pattern and a habit. I think it's a habit. We've got a lot of consultants that get paid a lot of money in this township. We just heard of one. Anyone that does work for the township deserves a fair wage. But, you know, sometimes there are occasions when you got to say, there's people losing their homes, people living in a very, very tight situation. This body raised tax during a pandemic. You raised the tax almost 10% during the pandemic. I don't see the compassion or the empathy in that. I don't think it was fair. I think you should have found a way to make that happen, as you have done in the past. With unused capital funds that were brought back from 2010, 2014, you guys found $1 million when you needed it one time. You can find a way to help people when you want to. But if it don't fall into 2014, 16, 18, and 20, it's maybe not. The borrowing that we've done in capital projects, whether it's a note or a bond, again, we're unused money that we found from 2014, 2010. You can do better. You can do a lot better. It's getting to be that the way that the township is working, you're squeezing the middle class out. If you're wealthy, the taxes ain't going to bother you. If affordable housing is coming to the area or apartments are coming to the area, it's the landlord that pays. It doesn't always hurt the residents of all those. But it makes the middle class, the people that are working, that their property taxes are going up. They have a rancher in the southern end of town. 75 feet by 75 feet, you're paying $6,000, $7,000. It's not easy. There's got to be better ways. There's got to be a lot better ways. It's not like you just don't see it coming. It's, like I said, there's a difference between a pattern and a habit. 2022 promises to be a very exciting year to see what happens. We know what's going to happen this year. It always does. But there's a much, much better way of doing it. We talked about zero-based budgeting. In case new members of council don't know what zero-based budgeting is, when you empty your garage out, you can clean the garage out, you throw everything out the driveway, then you figure out what needs to go back into the garage. And you arrange things the way it has to go. And everything that's in the pile can either be a yard sale or get rid of it. But only the things that need to go back in is zero-based budgeting. It's simple. It's simple. It's not an easy job for the accountant, but we're not here to make it easy for him. He's here to make it easy for us, as it is with you guys.
Right?
Just some things.
Thank you very much, Ray. Have a great evening. We'll close the public portion. Calling the directors.
Mr. Callahan?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Curtis?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Lefferts?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Parkins?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Chadwell?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Briefly, I mean, I've listened to everything. Paul, we go at it a little bit, right? I go at it a little bit. Please don't let that take you back. I'm listening to everything you're saying. I understand your passion. But there are certain things like trash. Trash back in 1998, pick that trash up, was minuscule compared to what it costs to pick up trash today. Minuscule. Health benefits. Back in the day, nothing. Now, it's tremendously expensive to provide health benefits to everybody in the town. So these numbers are going to tell you the story. And if all you're going to look at is 3 lines, and you're going to compare 1998 of a town that was open to what it is now, where you've got a lot of residents in this town. That dynamic growth is going to look differently when you look at these 3 numbers as compared to a town that was built up back in 1998. Cherry Hill was a much different town in Gloucester Township back then. I applaud you for what you're doing, Paul. The second thing is you indicated that, and I may have misunderstood you, but that people aren't coming here. People are moving out. There are no properties for sale in this town. There's nothing for sale. So when I said that's not true, I'm referring to nobody's moving out. the property values in this town have skyrocketed. So, I know that this is my opportunity to talk to you, and I apologize. I know that we'll probably speak in the parking lot, but I just want to tell you about that.
Ms. Grace, I have just one thing to add to that, and I agree with my colleague. And I tried to, as the newest member of council, I tried so very hard to listen. But I have also been here maybe longer than most people in this room. I've been in Gloucester Township since 1987 or 88. So I remember when it was just dirt roads. So it's hard for me, while I'm listening, it's hard for me to compare townships because I've seen the growth over the years. So to say that we need to decrease or do better, when you see so many things available to young people, the colleges have been built up, the roads have been built up, all down Cross Keys Road, that was all dirt road, just nothing but trees. Again, I said to, the public that I used to just drive around and see where I would end up at because it was nothing but dirt roads. So to see it today, and again, it's hard to compare to other towns because I do know Cherry Hill was doing very well during that time, and other towns were built up, So I'm wondering, are we just still growing? You're seeing our growth, and at some point, will we plateau? So I can't look at everything right now and say that we're not doing a great job or we're doing a poor job. I personally think we're doing a good job. I think, again, we can always do better, but I do have a question. Did we just save $1 million in trash? Doesn't that help the budget?
It does.
Okay, so,
Unfortunately, we had a slight increase, but it was not nearly what it would have been if it was just waste management.
Right.
Bidding on this thing.
So I know I'm listening, I see those things taken into account. It's not an easy job. I applaud everyone that's working so hard to, make our township, the best that it needs to be. But again, it's not what you're showing on paper and what I know from experience being in this township for such a long time, seeing everything grow. I'm not too sure, are we gonna get to a point of plateau? That's a question I will have, will it just flatten out and then you'll start seeing some savings? We have a lot of new business in this town, be it compare that to Cherry Hill or any other town. So it's just going to be a different, it's different. And I'm gonna, as a new council member, it's gonna take me some time to really answer some of your questions because that's what I see as a resident that's been here for 30 years, that we're still growing. And that's gonna cost money. But thank you for coming out. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you all for coming out. Everybody have a safe trip home and have a wonderful week. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. Mr. Mayor?
I want to thank everyone for coming out and their comments. And just a reminder, February is Heart Month, along with Go Red for Women Month. You can see some of my colleagues pitched in with the red this week. So just a reminder that heart disease is the #1 cause of death in the United States. Every 39 seconds, an American will have a heart attack. And over 18 million people died in the year 2019 from heart disease. So please take care of yourselves, get healthy, and pay attention to your bodies. Thank you.
Paul, thank you for the information that you shared. It was eye-opening to look at, but I have to say, when Dan brought up his points, I think, Dan, you brought up some very informative information to thinking about how the townships have changed. I grew up in Washington Township. I have family that still lives there, so I'm very much familiar with how Washington Township works and their taxes. I've also spent most of my working career in Cherry Hill, and I feel that I have also seen how Cherry Hill has and has not changed over the years. So I just want to say, I think you brought up good information and shared, but I think there's more to it behind the numbers that we are questioning. And that's what you all asked us to do. Many times you asked us to question, not just take something at face value. And I think Dan brought up some really good points. Thank you. Have a good night.
Mr. Mercado?
Thank you for all coming out this evening. I grew up in Swedesboro, and if anyone knows that town, no one lived there except me and some cows in the 70s and 80s. And people would ask me, why didn't I move back there after college? I left after my freshman year. I never came back. My mother still resides there on Kings Highway. We didn't get a traffic light into my town, Swedesboro, until the mid-90s. There was no Little League in my town. You had to go play in either Logan Township or East Greenwich or Harrison Township. Everything shut down after 6 o'clock besides Pat's Pizzeria. There wasn't a lot of things to do. It was a walkable town, population 2,000. We were part of a regional high school district, Kingsway. And I enjoyed growing up there. I loved growing up there. But I also love living in this town where there are things that are offered to all of our residents. And something Ray talked about, luxury items. And I think people have to be careful when they say that, because what may be a luxury item to someone may be a necessity to another resident. And I remember, and Dan is the only one on council at the time, it was August of 2009, and the then mayor, Ralph Hatton, was going to close the preschool program. Preschool program that we offer at the rec center for our children that are 3 and 4 years old. There wasn't a preschool program in Gloucester Township at the time. And the mayor referred to it as a luxury item. And this council chambers was packed because that decision was made a week and a half or 2 weeks prior to the beginning of preschool. Do you recall that, Mr. Cardis? Where there was television cameras. Do you recall this, Mr. Polidoro? I'm sure you do. And there was individuals, parent after parent, that talked about that this was not a luxury item. And we were able to save that particular program. That program has been part of the fabric of Gloucester Township, early childhood education, for over 30 plus years. But someone deemed it a luxury item. Whether it's the bus that takes seniors through the outlets or to the mall or to the pharmacy, people in this audience, not the ones here, but during budget time, they called it a luxury item. To have sidewalks, people in the southern end at the time did not have sidewalks. So the people in Glendora and Blackwood, the more developed areas, it was a luxury item that had a sidewalk. There are services that we provide that are not provided in other townships. If you change the name of any of those forums, and I'm sure some of you are part of it, I don't choose to be part of it, whether it's a GT Talk or Washington Township Talk or Cherry Hill Talk, change the name of it, and the same issues are with every township. There are growing pains that take place with every township. And again, I believe that the services that we provide here, we try to meet all the needs of our residents. So, as we do each year, we try to provide a responsible budget. We try to make an equitable budget. And we try to make it that everyone has an opportunity to live, play, and succeed here in Gloucester Township. But be careful when you say luxury items, because different things mean different things to different people. So, with that being said, thank you for all coming out this evening. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, have a great evening, everyone.
I emailed it to you.
Did you see my text message, Michelle, about,
So what's